Well, probably a lot, so you know how quickly they get bored. But the LA Public Library has stepped in to help with a new pilot reading program called Read While You Wait. We head to Kev's Barbershop in Leimert Park.
Read While You Wait is a community-based literacy program that provides access to quality children's books for customers who are waiting for service.
I like the fact that I can read when I'm waiting to get my hair cut and that I'm not just sitting here bored.
It's really nice to read while I wait for my brother to finish his hair.
This program is an opportunity for children to get exposed to a whole new world through reading. It allows them to help reach their full potential, regardless of what aspect in life they want to go to, if it's engineering, doctors, or lawyers, accountants, whatever profession. Reading is the primary basis to whatever you're trying to learn.
The library wants to create positive associations with reading, and we know that 75% of male students in the surrounding areas are reading below average. And this is a fun way for us to provide great access to books to them in a non-academic setting.
The program is set to expand to other locations in South LA. Well, for decades, New York and Philly have proudly shined spotlights on the contributions of Italian Americans in their cities. And now LA has joined in. Since opening in 2016, the Italian American Museum of Los Angeles has displayed some of their rich local history. Gil Reyes has more.
So here we are in beautiful downtown Los Angeles on the corner of Cesar Chavez and Main. And though the heart of Chinatown is a few steps that way, and Olvera Street a few steps this way, we're actually standing in the heart of what used to be known as downtown LA's Little Italy. In fact, this building, the Italian Hall, is the last surviving remnant of that bygone era. So it's only fitting that the Italian American Museum of Los Angeles is here too.
This is where the Italian community got together for weddings, banquets, speaking engagements.
With its original tile mosaic still intact, Italian Hall, built in 1908, now houses LA's Italian American Museum. El Pueblo General Manager Chris Espinoza shows us some of the highlights, like the 680-pound chameleon chandelier.
It's hand-blown Murano and made specifically for our space, and you can tell it just changed some colors right now. It's a showcase for all our visitors to come in, that something special is waiting for them.
First stop, the permanent exhibit. We learn LA's first Italians arrived in the 1820s.
We talk about early Italian settlement and the pioneers. We cover culture and Hollywood. We have Lady Gaga's Donatello Versace gown, you know, this robe that she has, and she loaned it to the museum. We also have things by Frank Capra, who directed It's a Wonderful Life.
While we're on the topic of LA entertainment, did you know the museum also once housed a speakeasy?
They used to sell wine out of here, and during Prohibition, you know, you weren't supposed to do that. But so this is a remnant from that period.
So how exactly would it work? A person would come in here and knock 3 times, or how would it?
Yeah, I would say there would be a secret knock, and a big guy would be on the other side that you wouldn't want to mess with. But the door dates from the 1920s. People could walk up from Olvera Street, walk up the stairs, and then there was a beer garden outside. So you get your beer, your Budweiser, and enjoy this beautiful mural by David Alfaro Siqueiros.
So this is the place for the temporary exhibits, right, Chris?
That's right, and it's a beautiful space. Right now we're showcasing Italianita, and it's Italian diaspora artists.
Around 20 artists of Italian descent tackling topics such as dual identity, sacrifice, and family. Take this piece, a rowboat entitled Sea of Promises by Luigia Martelloni.
Immigration and movement across the sea, using things like the color red, showing love and sensuousness, but also blood, and the difficulties of a passage across the seas. You know, they put it under the context of the Italians coming here, but it also relates to other people's backgrounds.
In short, a museum for everyone. Check out the Italian-American Museum of Los Angeles at 644 North Main Street in downtown Los Angeles. Admission is free.
In fact, all 7 of El Pueblo's museums are free and are open Tuesday through Sunday. In this next story, you'll never look at the letter L the same way again. What in the world am I talking about, you may be asking? We'll take a look at how one local artist uses L to create one-of-a-kind works that have a certain edgy quality.
When I saw Ty's work, I just kind of stopped in my tracks. It is incredibly fresh, incredibly well executed. It has a really great concept, and it just, it pops.
I used certain elements in my paintings. Some are more figurative, some are more abstract, and usually I use L-shaped figures, and they are now almost part of my identity.
Art is a unifier, and we are living in a time that is so incredibly strife-ridden, and we are at a location in downtown here where we are literally the halfway point between Skid Row and the financial district. So we are sort of the epicenter between the haves and the have-nots, and that's typically where art is born. You know, it's out of that tension.
I think art is important everywhere because we're cataloging our experiences. For example, this painting behind us that is based on elements that I've seen in LA incorporated in my art. And for me, LA is a major inspiration.
Artists are coming, I think, from all over the country to be part of this community, really. And it is a community. It's a community on the creative level. It's a community on the gallery level. That's how art is built. You know, that's how communities are built, that's how followings are built, and that's how our artists can survive. So I hope you join us in our journey.
The exhibit runs until January 30th. A real canon, a historic reenactment, and traditional Mexican dancers were all part of a celebration honoring the signing of a peace treaty between Mexico and the U.S., which led to the founding of California. Take a look.
This is the 171st anniversary of the end of the Mexican-American War and the founding of California.
This piece of property that you're all sitting on right now is the most important historical site in all of Los Angeles, second perhaps only to the Pueblo itself.
The Campo de Cahuenga is the birthplace of California. It was here on this actual date, January 13th, 1847, that an agreement was signed to close the Mexican-American War and gave birth to California.
Arms were laid down, peace came to California. This was a time of kinship, not of conquest. And I like to think that the lessons that we learned from that time are lessons that we can still benefit from even today.
We come to this place, this time, and this moment of conciliation that would lead to peace.
Do you want to be ruled by a distant monarch? I offer that you join the United States.
But you cannot blame me as a loyal Mexican for making one last stand against the American forces.
So it was that the two men agreed to terms and signed what we now know as the capitulation of Cahuenga.
That happened right here at this very spot that we're standing, here in what's now known as Studio City.
Not only it is historic, this is a fun day and a fun event.
We are a place of partnership. We are a place where immigrants come together in brotherhood. And I think today we can still learn the lessons of what started right here in 1847.
A former council member steps in to serve Council District 12 on an interim basis. A cultural hub in Canoga Park gets a second act, and tourism in LA surges to new heights. All this in City Beat.
I vote for Nuri Martinez.
The LA City Council unanimously elected CD6 Councilwoman Nuri Martinez as council president pro tempore, filling the seat vacated by Mitch Englander. The councilwoman becomes the first Latina in LA City Council history to hold the title. In addition, former 12th District Council member Greg Smith will fill Englander's seat until a special election can determine CD12's next representative. Out in the West Valley, Councilmember Bob Blumenfield has negotiated the city's purchase of the West Valley Playhouse. The popular local theater, destined for closure, serves the residents of Canoga Park and is considered a performance and cultural staple of the West Valley. Mayor Eric Garcetti and other city officials gathered at LA Live to commemorate an incredible milestone for the city, a whopping 50 million visitors in 2018, marking the 8th straight year of record-breaking growth.
We know that disengaging from one another is not a way to prosper or succeed or to bring peace or prosperity to our world.
Forum attendees were also treated to an unexpected surprise.
What's up, everyone? This city is always innovating. I mean, check me out. I'm a hologram.
Legendary actor Sam Elliott made his mark in stone as he cemented his foot and handprints in front of the Chinese Theater in Hollywood. He was joined by his A Star is Born co-stars Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a man whose career spans more than 100 films and television shows, Sam Elliott.
In his 50 years as an actor, Sam has left an iconic mark on such films as Lifeguard.
How do you like L.A.?
Hate it. The girls are snotty and the boys are a bunch of creeps.
The Big Lebowski.
You got a good sarsaparilla.
Sioux City sarsaparilla?
Yeah, it's a good one.
He even appeared in George Roy Hill's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, his first credited job.
I didn't know you were the Sundance Kid when I said you were cheating.
And as you know, currently seen in A Star is Born.
Music is essentially 12 notes between any octave. 12 notes and the octave repeats. It's the same story, told over and over.
You received many honors in your career. I know you will receive many more, but this one, my friend, is written in stone.
I've spent a lot of time early on in my career when I was working as a laborer before I got into the picture business, before I started at Fox as a contract player. I was a day laborer, and I had my feet and hands in cement a good part of the time. So it's all kind of come full circle. Those people that come up to me out of nowhere off the street and say, hey, I really love your films. They want to shake hands and thank me for the work. That's the thing that touches me most.
By the way, Sam Elliott has 2 nominations at the upcoming SAG Awards. And speaking of the SAG Awards, it is certainly one of the most coveted statues in Hollywood. But making it is an art form in itself, one that's been around for centuries. Rasha Goel has more on a traditional art form that's helped mold a lasting impression.
From the looks of it, you might think you're watching something out of a sci-fi film. But don't be fooled. This is the real deal. These guys in metallic silver fireproof suits are preparing a vat of molten bronze that will become the statuettes for this year's 25th SAG Awards.
It's as ancient an art as acting is, and it really is a piece of art. It's not just a trophy, and I think people really have responded to that over the years.
The bronze actor statuette is created by the American Fine Arts Foundry that has worked with the Screen Actors Guild every year for the last 25 years to make these pieces. The statue is made through what's called the lost wax casting process.
It's actually about 10 steps beginning to end, but essentially we start with a master mold. We make a wax positive out of that mold. We then take that wax and make a temporary mold over it. We then empty the wax out of the mold, pour bronze in, and then we do all the work to weld it back together, make all the seam lines go away, make it look beautiful, and then put a patina on it and mount it.
As you can see, the work definitely takes a lot of skill and precision. It's craftsmanship and skilled artwork at its finest. A team of 10 craftsmen work together to create this masterpiece.
These statuettes weigh about 12 pounds, so they're not as light as they look.
It takes about 8 to 12 weeks to make them, and this year they've made 40 statuettes for the SAG Awards show. They actually make more statuettes as there is no way to predict how many winners there will be in the different categories. Crazy Rich Asians nominee Harry Shum Jr. also had a chance to put his artistic skills to the test.
Yo, if you need to hire anyone else to do this, I'm here.
Well, I guess in this case, it took a little muscle work.
Being there and feeling the temperature, feeling the heat, feeling the energy from everyone watching, and then creating something like this is just like, you only see the ending product, so to always see anything being created is really special.
The statuette is holding the masks of comedy and tragedy and is intentionally sculpted for the SAG Awards to represent the artistry of the industry. And if you happen to win one, here's a valuable piece of advice.
Don't drop it on your foot.
You can see the statuette in its final form at the SAG Awards on January 27th.
To date, over 1,000 statuettes, each nearly identical yet individually crafted, have been produced. Check out a new photo exhibit at the Underground Museum. Come out for a Venice Beach Street Festival. And Dodgers fans, get ready to meet the boys in blue. All this and things to do. The Underground Museum is a creative space that provides lower-income neighborhoods with arts exhibitions, live events, and workshops. Their current photo exhibit by photographer Deanna Lawson is called Planes and explores perceived and intrinsic identity. Check out Planes at the Underground Museum now through February 17th. The museum is open Wednesday through Sunday from noon to 7 p.m. and is located at 3508 West Washington Boulevard. More details can be found at undergroundmuseum.org. Spend a fun day beachside at the Venice Beach Street Festival. This monthly shindig is jam-packed with the cool vendors, great food, and unforgettable street musicians and performers. There's something for the whole family at the Venice Beach Street Festival. The party starts at 4 p.m. on Saturday, January 26th at 1500 Oceanfront Walk. Your favorite MLB stars pull out all the stops for the 2019 Dodger Fan Fest. Players and fans alike converge on Dodger Stadium for the ultimate day-long event of all-star autographs, with proceeds to benefit the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation. Sign up now for a VIP experience at the 7th Annual Dodgers Fan Fest, happening at the Dodger Stadium Saturday, January 26th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. To register, visit dodgers.com/fanfest. And that's a look at some things to do. Sometimes a few basic necessities can make all the difference for people experiencing homelessness. Team Cedillo and the nonprofit Shower of Hope came together in MacArthur Park to lend a helping hand and offer some hope.
I live in my car, and some people, they said, no, you're not homeless because you had a roof on your car. Well, anyway, I park in the street, so any street that I'm able to park, that's where I park, and that's where I stay for the day or for the night or for the week, if it's possible. I'm trying to care for myself.
The Shower of Hope is a nonprofit organization that we started 2 years ago, and we basically have mobile shower trailers. We go to locations, we offer people free showers, but also through our volunteer base, like what's happening over here, we try to bring in auxiliary services. Like today we're providing food here in MacArthur Park, hygiene items.
I got my TB test, I got my flu shot, my hepatitis A shot, and also for B. There's better services and more reliable. This is great. That's great.
I live in the neighborhood, so I'm so thankful that we have this service for our unhoused neighbors. These are literally the people who live outside of my building and in the park that my family visits on the weekends. So it's the most basic thing that we can provide to literally the people who are in our neighborhood here.
What we're doing here at the park is we're actually bringing a shower so individuals can shower with dignity and respect once a week. Those individuals that find themselves living at the park can have a shower, they can have a meal, they can have resources, medical services.
We're a county with 53,000 people on our streets. How do we get the services to the people without waiting for those people to come to us for services?
That's it for this edition. I'm Yana Kay, and from all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. See you next time for more of LA This Week.
Members, if you're in your offices, please report. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, January 23rd. I want to welcome you to City Hall, your Los Angeles City Council. Madam Clerk, we have a quorum. Would you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Harris Dawson, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rodriguez, Rue, Smith, Wesson. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Price moves. Rodriguez seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Bonin moves and Koretz seconds. Continue.
Mr. President, item number 1 is an item noticed for public hearing, and there is cards on that item.
Okay, then continue.
Items 2 through 14 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on those items unless members have some questions or concerns. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Continue.
Items 15 through 31 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. Do you have cards on these items as well?
Yes, sir. There are cards on 15, 16, 17, 19, 21, 23 through 31, sir.
Okay, let's hold those items and let's vote on the items that are remaining. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, that brings us where?
Items 32 through 39 are items scheduled for closed session.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, would you care to weigh in on that?
Yes, the items were addressed in Budget and Finance without any issues. Unless the members have questions, I believe they can be dealt with in open session.
Okay, well, Madam Clerk, you want to run through those items?
And I'll actually deal with items 32 and 33.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
On item 32, City versus Deloitte, Deloitte, under the settlement, owes the city no taxes and will receive no refund either. On item number 33, the defendant, identified as Deloitte and Touche, will satisfy deficiencies totaling $423,983.72 plus interest. Penalties will be waived.
Okay, and before we go into the other items, why don't we just take those two items up right now? So we're going to take up items 32 and I think it's 33. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, is there anything else on the agenda other than those items? Okay, so okay, so let's call up Mr. Previn. Mr. Previn, are you still around? Mr. Previn, you have items 1, 15, 16, 17, 19, 21, 23, 24 through 31, and your general public comment. Yes, sir.
Just 1 second. I'll call you back. Thank you, sir. It's Eric Previn from Studio City. There was a problem at the kiosk, so I just report that I could not sign up beyond item 33, and I notice you have several other legal items on this agenda, if I'm reading it correctly. You have like...
So, Mr. Previn, the closed session items were dealt with, and the public hearing was satisfied in Budget and Finance.
But you didn't read out any...
We haven't voted on the others, so please continue with your items that you have signed up for.
That's a bit of a party foul, sir, because the public, you're giving me this
No,
is the time.
Mr.
It's not-
Previn.
okay, fine, I'll
You
go
know
on.
you can't speak on those items because they were already dealt with in committee. So speak on the items that you can speak to.
Okay. I mean, you're running a weird
No, we're
operation
not,
down
Mr.
here.
Previn.
Fair enough.
Speak
Fair
to
enough.
the
Let's get on to
items.
it. So, fair enough, sir. I want to thank the pernicious CD13 leader who got skipped over as public safety chair by Monica Rodriguez, Mitchell Farrell. I want to thank him for putting into effect some First Amendment restrictions on people in Hollywood. He's really doing a great job, and I appreciate it. And I want to say that the LA Convention Center item, where Kern Price, who is not really being investigated, but it appears...
Mr. Previn.
Item CD9, item 25. I signed up on that item. Anybody will want to dispute that? Come on, sir. That's AEG. I know who they are. Tim Lewicki used to be the big boss over there. Now he's the big boss over at Oakview Group. They're having some website trouble because they can't get Mitch Englander's name up there. And there's no press releases about him going over there, which is weird. That's why we're hoping that we can get the Recycling King started one more time and see if he can make room for Nicole Bernson, the third woman council member of the city of Los Angeles. They're under your leadership, because I know that you have been reaching out.
Got to stay on the item, Mr.
All right, sorry,
Previn.
it's Mayor Garcetti who loves the women. Fair enough. Let's take a quick look over at the reward item, which I don't really want to say anything about, but I will say something about CD4, because CD4 has been so diligent at spending overtime money on enforcement. And they've really, I don't think anybody has done more, with the possible exception of CD12.
I'm confused what item you're on, Mr. Previn.
Sure, I'm on the item where Greg Smith popped up $11,000 to take and put into enhanced police enforcement in CD12. What he did was he took money from a different category, which you could look up if you want. I could find it for you. Happy to find it for you. Could you hold my time, sir, while I get that?
No, you can just go to your general public comment now, Mr. Previn.
Well, let's find out for the people, because Falbo wants to know, what I'll make a note to get that back to folks. What was it that he deployed the money from to enhanced enforcement? Now, getting back to the point at hand, sir, the women of Los Angeles are ready. I'll tell you what we're ready for. We're ready to save $2.4 million, cancel the special election in CD12, and park Nicole Bernson, who's been here for, I think, almost 20 years, right in that seat and let her vote with Blumenfield and Marquise Harris Dawson and the rest of them. Because there's nothing wrong with the women of Los Angeles taking a seat, and we don't need, frankly, yet another older white male from Waste Management in there in violation of something that's called the prohibition on. Now, I like the guy, so I say let him stay there for a couple months. Let him come up with this idea himself. He's a smart guy, and we can move forward. Okay? No. Okay. Well, then in that case, let's move forward to phase two. Phase two is gratitude for the UTLA. I want to just say one more time, they raised their voices, and the mayor helped broker a deal. We really do appreciate it, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Previn. Okay, let's vote on reconsideration on items 2 and 18.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now let's actually vote on the items. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, I'm going to jump back to general public. Mr. Herman, you have items.
Fucking nigger.
Okay. So, Mr. Herman, you can speak on item 1, and I lost it. 21 through
fucking
31, and then your general public comment.
42 U.S.C. 1983 says that the administrative exemption, trade and travel, and that of nigger tourism for a fucking nigger committee to report for the ordinance of fucking niggers in consideration of what I, the public legislative body, is here to make a statement authorizing Los Angeles niggers, the world
Get
airports.
on the item, Mr. Herman.
World airports. You told me I'm on item 1, fool. Stay on topic. So in adoption to determine why I, a working nigger, comes here every day to discuss business of the LA airport shutdown soon to come. Because Nancy Pelosi and the other cunt, Kamala Harris, refuses to cooperate under city CEQA, C-E-Q-A, asshole. I know how to spell C-E-Q-A, in determining whether or not LAX, lamps, environmental impact was submitted, and I have not adopted that resolution, motherfuckers. Now that I have your attention, because this is how you like to interact with me. In addition to my public comments on items of the agenda, such as here regarding CD4, Motion, Rue, and Bloomfield, a working nigger like me and his wife routed to funding for what? Street improvements. Sidewalk and streets need to be improved, motherfuckers, because we got Woolens versus Los Angeles for $30 million fucking dollars to fix our fucking streets and infrastructure. Because I got a dream, motherfucker, to see the empowerment of the people to fix our fucking streets. Because I'm the American dream, and I am empowering the people to come here and retaliate against a city of organized corruption and money laundering to stop abusing the public funds.
Get on
to
item.
Authorize the city administrator, cunt officer, to make technical corrections, not in what I say, motherfuckers, and what I plan to do. Tear this fucking city down and rebuild it, getting rid of Jose Huizar, getting rid of that fucking Martinez, and building a world
you seem to be off
that
topic
we are all
now,
equal
Mr.
in.
Herman.
Let's give him his 1 minute of general public comment. You must stay on the item, Mr. Herman.
So
Yes.
now that we're told what to say, now that we're being censored by Herman Jason Wesson and his stupid son who are trying to run for 2 other seats other than the one they can't control, who's the fools? That yellow teeth motherfucker up there who smokes cigarettes every day and throws buds out on the back steps of my city hall because he can't handle the sweat of the FBI investigation on his brother Jose Huizar and the Catholic Archdiocese fucking church. I'm gonna hope we all, brothers, end up in hell so I can see all my Negro children, all my Negro neighbors bury the hatchet in Jose Huizar's ass in jail, motherfuckers, for subsidizing our HHH money to build a fucking monopoly with these fucking Chinese in the mayor. Fuck you, Eric Garcetti.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's get Mr. Spindler. Mr. Spindler, you have item 1 and 15.
Oh, you got a new microphone.
15 through 31 in general public comment.
Good. Got a new cock-shaped microphone here.
Oh, you got to stay on subject, Mr. Herman. Mr. Spindler.
You're in enough trouble, Target. So number 1, let's see here, L.A. World Airports. Well, as you can see, Mike Bonin has had another overdose. As you can see him sitting there, so he's not paying attention to his district. He's looking up at the ceiling, high on drugs again, so we say no to this incredibly rip-off item. What a disgrace. Now, I'd be able to talk about things, but because of the way you illegally agendize these items, I have to skip to 15. We get to item number 15, CD2,
You know what that means? That means Paul Krikorian is up to his old tricks again with lighting districts now. Number 16, we have a Jose Huizar item. So let's see here, for the record, I just want to be disclosure here. The Bureau opposes item number 16. The Bureau finds that this target of the grand jury should not be promoting and moving items forward when he's not eligible to vote in a committee. Please, Mr. Wesson, Mr. President, and Mr. Clerk, please rescind item 16 from the agenda. It is illegal and it is interfering with the grand jury investigation. So I just want to be clear for that. Item 17, Monica Rodriguez. Oh, she hasn't gotten her subpoena yet. Okay, I'll skip that one. Then we have item 18, Nuri. She's got a lot of subpoenas. She got subpoenas from the grand jury in LA County. She's got them from the federal grand jury. And what is she doing? Resigning? No, she has hearing dates for maintenance of lighting districts that we don't need. And you know, the thing is, and I know that all of our friends in the government think that this is going to go away. It's not going to go away. They just have more lighting districts, CD3. Bob Blumenstupid. Yes, no on that. Lighting districts. Now we get to the rent escrow. Item 20A. We have current price. You have 4 more days to comply with the subpoena. And again, South Denver Avenue, we are getting them off of there, so please, again, for disclosure, any monies that were paid to the council member on 5855 South Denver are to be returned to its rightful owner within 2 business days of the vote of this item. That's the way it has to be.
Okay, before your 1 minute, Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, that's right. I am the city attorney.
Hold on 1 moment, Mr. Spindler.
I am the city attorney.
No, Mr. Spindler.
I am.
Mr. Spindler,
hold on.
You have to be quiet now.
So this is directed to Mr. Herman. During the entirety of Mr. Spindler's comments, you've been waving the sign, holding up a piece of paper, waving your arms, tearing the paper in half. It's distracting and thus disturbing the meeting. Please stop it.
Mr. Spindler, you don't have the floor now. Mr. Spindler, you do not have the floor. Go on, Strat.
Please.
No, Mr. Spindler, you're going to... Mr. Spindler's... In fact, Mr. City Attorney, Mr. Spindler, sit down. You forfeited your general public comment. I asked you 4 times. No, because I asked you 3-4 times to stop. You were disrupting the meeting then. You're disrupting the meeting down. Sergeant, show him this seat. Mr. Herman, Mr. City Attorney, you want to finish your statement?
Yeah, so
he's continuing to disrupt the meeting.
Mr. Spindler is. So let me finish with Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, stop moving around in an attempt to distract us. The president has warned you, and if you do it again, he may ask you to leave. To Mr. Spindler, you have not been here since the new rules came into effect. They're summarized on the board in the back, and I want you to understand that if you're ordered removed from the meeting repeatedly, you could get excluded from future meetings for a period of time. If you want the exact rules, go onto the clerk's website. Otherwise, read the summary. I don't want you to say you didn't know the rules if they get used against you, okay?
Okay, thank you. So, Madam Clerk, that concludes multi-comment. So the multi-public comment section is concluded. Okay, and let's vote on items 15 through 17. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Now we'll go items 19, 21, and then 24 through 31. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Mr. President, there's a request for item 31 to go forthwith, sir.
Without objection. Okay, now let's go back to the remaining items that are closed session items. Would you speak to those, Madam Clerk, or should that be the city attorney?
I may, if I may speak on it, sir. Item 34 in the case entitled Vahik Shabazian versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $200,000 in settlement. Item 35 in the case entitled Maya Holcomb versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $900,000 in settlement. Item number 36 in the case entitled Smith versus City of Los Angeles, there's a recommendation to expend $3.3 million in settlement. Item 37 in the case entitled Joseph Martin versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $300,000 in settlement. Item number 38 in the case entitled Leanne Patek versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $150,000 in settlement. And item 39 in the case entitled Be Wicked Incorporated versus City of Los Angeles and MNP LLC versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $648,981.35 in settlement.
Thank you. Mr. Krikorian, did you want to chime in?
Thank you, Mr. President. All of the matters referenced by the clerk have been considered by Budget and Finance, which recommends approval of the city attorney's recommendations. Those can all be done in open session unless members have questions or concerns.
Okay, well, there are no members on the board. Let's prepare to vote on these items. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, now I'd like to recognize Ms. Rodriguez for a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Well, it gives me really great pleasure today to bring in 1111, a creative collective, because these ladies are instrumental in helping to transform, I know, a number of communities throughout the San Fernando Valley. I know this is an organization that Councilmember Martinez and Krikorian and, of course, Mr. Blumenfield are very well aware of, because they have been an important part of how we have activated public art in our communities, and more importantly, creating this outlet where many of our local artists will find an opportunity to be exposed and share their great gifts, many of whom coming and emanating from the San Fernando Valley. I am joined today by our incredible general manager, another Valley girl, Danielle Brazel.
And incredible she is. Let's give her a round of applause.
And the dynamic duo force of Addie Gonzalez Renteria and Aaron Stone, both of whom were the originators and founders of 1111, a creative collective.
All right.
So thank you guys for being
Welcome
here.
to City Hall.
And we're here today to celebrate the opening of an exhibit that is going to be opening this weekend at an adjacent Valley territory of Glendale, but to be featured shortly following that stint in the Northeast San Fernando Valley in my district. And what they have brought together is an exhibit called Valley Girl Redefined. And you know, for many of us that grew up in the San Fernando Valley, there was a narrative, particularly amongst for young women, where it was defined as being like, you know, totally rad and cool, like really, we were amazing. But the reality is that many of us have been contributing to a very different narrative of what a Valley Girl is. And what has been really remarkable is that 1111 has championed this because they recognize that the stories of many different types of Valley Girls were not being shared. And so they have done this outstanding collection of stories of women like Virginia Torres Miramontes, the tia to Felicia Orozco, my legislative director, who was the first woman on the assembly line at the General Motors plant after the adoption of the consent decree. It was trailblazers like Virginia that helped to change the narrative of what a Valley Girl is and was and continues to be today. And so I am really proud of this exhibit and proud to also have been invited to be a part of it, to share a little bit of my story. But this really incredible collection of stories is going to be again on display at the Brand Library Arts Center in Glendale this Saturday, January 26th until March 22nd of this year, and it's free for everyone to attend. And with that, I want to share a little bit more of some space here with some of my incredible Valley girls, and I'd like to invite our General Manager, Danielle Brazel, for remarks.
You know what, before Danielle speaks, can I get Mr. Blumenfield to jump in? And guys, why don't you're bunched up. Give us a good look at it. Yeah. Danielle, you're an art person. Give us a little,
Space. We need some space.
Yeah, make it work. Mr. Blumenfield, the floor is yours.
Well, I want to thank Monica for bringing 1111 in. As you know, I am a huge fan of 1111. Adi and Aaron, you guys are doing amazing work. The Reseda Rising initiative and that we do in Reseda, they make things happen. Pop art, I mean, they are all about activating the space, and I love partnering with you guys. I don't know what this exhibit, I know it's going to be amazing. It sounds great. Valley Girls, totally getting into the total everything. But I also know it's going to be great because the work that you guys, everything you touch, you have the Midas touch, it turns to gold. So I'm excited about it. Maybe we can bring it to the West Valley after you're done in CD7 in Glendale. We'll just keep moving further west. So thank you for being here, and Monica, thank you for bringing them.
Okay, back to you. Danielle, the mic is yours. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So yes, I'm an OG Valley girl. I grew up in the Park Parthenia apartments. Some known it as, used to call it Bryan Street. And I'll tell you that back in the 80s, there was nothing in the Valley for artists or arts organizations. There wasn't a whole lot of free cultural festivals for us to explore. It was pretty much a suburban oasis, if you'd like to say. So I got out and I built a career in the arts. But these two women didn't leave, and they didn't leave their community. What they did is they saw that there was an opportunity to build something that did not exist. And what they did is in 2009, they said, we want to create a platform for local artists. We want to give our Valley artists the space to be able to exhibit their work. We want to create an opportunity for the community to come together, because in all of LA's neighborhoods, there is no absence of creativity, but there is oftentimes an absence of structures or galleries or spaces where people can actually, systems of acknowledgement where people can connect. And so in 2009, at the height of the recession, might I add, these two amazing women decided to do something for their community, and they built 1111 Collective, and they started to work with storefront owners and developers, and they got those spaces for free, and they activated those spaces, and they created a new system of acknowledgement for LA-based artists, and this is extraordinary. And over the past 10 years, these two have become extraordinary and important partners for the Department of Cultural Affairs to be able to deliver cultural services in the San Fernando Valley. And I will tell you, Reseda Rising is it's off the charts. For those of you in council, please come by next year. I tell you, these two women are doing extraordinary things for the Valley, and I'm so grateful that you are partners with us to expand cultural programming for all of our LA communities.
Thank you.
Well said, Danielle. And I got to know 1111 because I have a number of friends who are local artists from the San Fernando Valley, and I attended one of the local pop-ups at a vacant business space along Ventura Boulevard that was not being utilized. That was it created an activation that is sorely needed in areas that help to actually deter some of the adverse impacts that would often come with vacant spaces. And so they've done an outstanding job of being created, and as Danielle mentioned, at a critical time during the economic recession, providing not just a creative outlet for our local artists, but again, partnering with our local business community to reinvigorate some of our areas that needed a little more love and attention. And so with that, I'd like to invite my friend and co-conspirator over here with Addie, Aaron Stone.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, first off, Monica. Thank you so much. This is so lovely, and thank you for having us. The words that you ladies are saying about 1111 means all the world to us, so thank you. It very much validates what we've been doing, and it's been such a long road with a lot of hard work, and we're happy to be here. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. We've partnered with so many of the neighborhoods in the San Fernando Valley, and without your support, our utility box project in North Hollywood and Reseda Rising, without the support of our neighborhoods, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. I wanted to first off thank also Brand Library and Art Center, and our exhibition supervisor Shannon Curry Holmes is here. This Valley Girl Redefined has been a project that we've been working on for a number of years. I'm a third generation Valley Girl, and my father talks about growing up in Pacoima and getting a nickel to go across the street and get a paper from his grandfather. This exhibit is all about how to show the San Fernando Valley in a new light, in a different light, and in turn Valley girls in a new light and a different light. And this exhibit would not be possible without the support of Brand Library and Art Center giving us the platform to do so. So thank you so much. We have 23 contemporary artists showing artwork in this exhibit. We have 49 stories of local San Fernando Valley girls who will be telling a bit of their story. We have 9 women who will be highlighted throughout the exhibit. We also have about 45 independent writers, artists, zine makers that will be showing their work. So this is a collection of almost 100 Valley women talking about what the San Fernando Valley means to them. And we would love for everybody to come and join us at the opening, which is Saturday, this coming Saturday, 6 to 9. At Brand Library. So thank you. We hope to see all of you there.
Thank you.
And I have a shy co-conspirator over here, Addie, and I want to recognize her. And thank you, Shannon, as well, for being here and for opening up your space and bringing 1111 in. Again, colleagues, I think it's a really unique opportunity for us to tell a different kind of story for the history of the San Fernando Valley, and I really am appreciative of what these women have done to identify those stories and help elevate them and put them front and center. These are some of the sheroes that too often get overlooked, and it's going to be an outstanding exhibit, and we invite you to please join us. And if you can't make it Saturday, that's okay, because it's going to be in my district, and then following, I'm sure, with many of your districts as well. Oh gosh, that's the picture that's going to be featured as part of my narrative back when I was in high school.
All right.
Where the troublemaking started early. But again, I invite you all to come out and support this really incredible exhibit. And again, my thanks to 1111 for doing such an amazing job in collecting these stories. They're an important part of the history of the San Fernando Valley. And with that, I do have certificates here.
Give them one more round of applause. Thank you so very much. And Ms. Rodriguez, Ms. Monica, what we're going to do for the rest of council, we're going to just keep that photograph up on the monitors.
The haircut hasn't changed much, if you notice. So the haircut's very similar. Thank you. But again, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's, I think, Madam Clerk, we can vote on item 24 at this time, correct?
Mr. President, that's item 23, and for the record, item 23, the amendment has been posted, circulated, and now is before council, sir.
Thank you. So on 23, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, I want to jump into general public comment and call up Ms. Richardson, Jacqueline Richardson, and Constance Sullivan. Please come forward. Ms. Sullivan, are you here? Please come. You have 1 minute, and the floor is yours. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Constance Sullivan with the Torrance Refinery Action Alliance, and I'm here to respectfully request a meeting with the mayor about the danger posed by the Valero Wilmington Refinery and the Torrance Refinery. They use large amounts of chemical called hydrofluoric acid. They truck it in large amounts. It travels all the way across all of LA County down to the 2 refineries that use it. We've gotten letters of support from all the 5 members of the Board of Supervisors, Attorney General Becerra, Congresspeople Waters Lou Barragan, Kevin De Leon. The beach cities have all written letters. The neighborhood councils in the area are in support of us, SEIU 721, the California Nurses Association, the Torrance Teachers Association. We haven't been successful in getting a meeting with the mayor yet. We've met with staff, but we find there's no substitute for actually talking to the elected leader, and we respectfully request that.
Okay, and so Ms. Sullivan will pass that along. And I believe I got a call about this Friday-ish from someone from your organization, so thank you for being vigilant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson?
I'm here to complain against the Russians. There are many good Russians, and there's some that aren't so good. The problem is the good ones cannot be identified, and the ones that are not doing so well cannot be identified. I'm against this. I have many things to say about the Russians that I can't prove. It might be true and it may not be true because they can't be located and they cannot be identified. They're honest people as far as I know. If you ask them if they're Russian, they'll probably say yes, but that's not the problem. The problem is they cannot be identified. I blame them for the teachers' strike. I blame them for the homelessness. I blame them for the evacuation of Bakov from his post. Maybe this isn't fair, but until people are identified, somebody's doing all these wrong things, and I wish people would be identified so they could be placed in the right category.
Thank you. So that concludes general public comment. Let us move now to item number 1. And Mr. Cedillo?
Not yet.
Item 1. It's Item 1 requests that the City Council adopt an ordinance approving a resolution of necessity to authorize commencement of eminent domain proceedings to acquire portions of property located at 9200 Aviation Boulevard in Los Angeles. So I would think we want to proceed and go through a process. So we'll start off with a presentation, an oral presentation from staff. Marissa, oh, you're already there. And we'll start off with you guys and take it from there. And then if I need to, well, anyway, we'll take it from there. Go ahead.
Good morning, thank you. I'm Marissa Katnish with Los Angeles World Airports. This item is a hearing to determine whether the council wishes to adopt an ordinance approving a resolution of necessity to authorize commencement of eminent domain proceedings to acquire portions of the property located at 9200 Aviation Boulevard in Los Angeles, California. This ordinance does not address in any way the compensation to be paid for the taking of the property, nor does the adoption of the ordinance prevent the parties from continuing to negotiate. It's always possible that a settlement may be reached without trial or significant litigation over the acquisition, and that is always our hope. But in this case, for the reasons explained in the staff report and the presentation, we are asking that the council approve the ordinance so that staff may move forward with the next legal step in the condemnation process, which is the authorization to bring an eminent domain action to condemn portions of the property. At the close of the hearing, you'll be asked to make a few key findings as described in the CA report and the proposed ordinance. Adopting this ordinance requires an affirmative 2/3 vote of the council. The council file and the presentation you are about to hear will give you the facts necessary to support the necessary findings. The presentation, council file, and all its reference documents will become part of the record of these proceedings. If there are any additional exhibits or information presented to the council this morning, they will be added to the record. If you have any questions about the facts, please do not hesitate to ask staff. If you have legal questions about the findings, please ask legal counsel. The first two findings, the public interest or necessity requiring the project and the project being planned or located for the greatest public good and least private injury, are applicable to the entire project and not solely or even necessarily to the use of eminent domain for the acquisition of portions of the specific property at issue. The remaining findings, for example, that the property being acquired is necessary for the project, that an offer has been made to the owner of the property as required by law, and the requisite environmental reviews have been completed, apply to the specific property at issue. While the CAO report details much of what I'm about to address, I'd like to touch on a few key items. The project requiring acquisition of this property is the Landside Access Modernization Program, or LAMP, in which the city will be constructing an automated people mover to provide passenger connections from a consolidated rental-car facility and 2 new intermodal transit facilities to Los Angeles International Airport's Central Terminal area. Property acquisitions for LAMP are only pursued via eminent domain as a last resort after voluntary acquisition measures have been pursued and proven unsuccessful. Here, a written offer and accompanying appraisal summary was previously made to the property owner, and despite efforts to negotiate, no agreement for the acquisition of the needed property rights could be reached. Notice of this hearing was sent by first class and priority mail to the property owner on January 8, 2019. That concludes my presentation. I would like to take this opportunity to remind the council members that the adoption of the ordinance requires an affirmative 2/3 vote of the council. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. At this point in time, members, are there any questions for staff? Do we have representatives here from the property owner? Please come forward, sir.
And as the representative comes forward, I'd just like to remind the council members we should treat this as a fair hearing item, so please pay attention to the person at the podium or the screen in front of you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir, please come forward and identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Barry Florence. I did fill out one of the kiosks that I would be speaking here today. I am the attorney for the property owner, HaHa Inc., located at 9200 Aviation Boulevard, which is on the corner of Aviation and Arbavida. It is my understanding, based upon this hearing and others at LAWA, that it is a position of LAWA to take a significant portion of my client's property, primarily on the southern portion of Arbavida as well as east of Aviation. Our big objection to the proposal by LAWA.
Mr. Herman, stop. Hold his time. Mr. Herman, last warning. Come on. This is important. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Our big objection is that not only is property being taken to expand Arbavida from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, but a significant portion of my client's property is being taken for a bike lane. We don't believe that the taking of land for a bike lane would ever meet the standard of necessity. Not only that, but going westbound from my client's property towards the ocean, towards LAX, there is new construction, including a new metro facility. So therefore, none of that land could be taken to provide for this bike lane. Also going eastbound on Arbavida, there is also brand new construction. And again, this bike lane could not proceed eastbound on Arbavida. So it is our position that while there could be proof of a necessity of taking land for expansion of Arbavida and somewhat on Aviation, it should not be for a bike lane. Putting all of that aside, we are hopeful to work out a resolution and a settlement with LAWA and ultimately possibly with the approval of this council to resolve this issue short of any eminent domain issues.
Please, if you have anything else to say, you want to wrap something up, don't feel rushed. Go ahead.
That is it. Thank you very much.
Okay. So are there any questions to the attorney? I don't see any. You can take your seat.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, there are no questions at this time. I believe we can just move forward. You have to have a motion to, so Mr. Bonin moves. Is there a second? I'll second. So on this issue, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, it's my understanding that Mr. Cedillo is requesting that we reconsider item 25 from yesterday.
Yes, Mr. President. First vote should be a suspension of the rules, and that is Council File 18-0527, and that is item number 25 from yesterday's meeting.
Okay, so let's vote on suspension of the rules. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Now let's actually vote on the item.
Sir, we need to also, council needs to reconsider the item.
Okay, let's vote on reconsideration as well. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
So now would be the appropriate time to vote on the issue itself. So
Sir.
let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, I'm going to ask for another vote on reconsideration per a Mr. Krikorian request. Item 26.
Yes, please.
If we could, on today, item 26 from today, if we could open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Mr. Krikorian?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to ask that the matter be referred to Budget and Finance.
Okay, without objection, so ordered. That brings us where?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They're posted, referred, announcements, members, announcements. If there are no announcements, can we all please rise for adjourning motions? All please rise. You two know the drill. All right, I'm looking to my right side, Mr. Krikorian, Mr. Smith. I don't see any. My left, Mr. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn today in memory of Michael James Hartnagel, who is the cousin of my policy director, Dennis Gleason. Michael, at age 47, passed away on Saturday, January 12th. He was a beloved son of Michael and Mary Jo Hartnagel, and Mike was preceded by his father. He was a graduate of Alexis DuPont High School and attended Syracuse University. Mike was self-employed and an avid gardener. Following college, football and spending time with his 3 nieces away lifted his spirits. Mike is survived by his loving mother, his brother, Andrew, his 2 sisters, Bridget and Kathleen, along with his nieces and extended family of aunts and uncles. Mike's gentle smile and warm heart will be truly missed by his friends and family. Family and friends may visit from 2 to 3 p.m. on Saturday, January 26th at Doherty Funeral Home in Wilmington, Delaware. Celebration of Mike's life will begin at 3. Mike's family requests no flowers, but in lieu of flowers, donations may be made to his name for Habitat for Humanity. May Michael James Hartnagel rest in peace. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. And Mr. Cedillo, I'll get to you in a moment.
Yep.
Are there any more adjourning motions on my left side? I'd like to recognize Mr. Rue for an adjourning motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues. I am joined today by Adina Solomon's daughter and granddaughter as we adjourn this meeting in honor of Adina Solomon. Adina Solomon was one of our own, serving with distinction and honor as a dedicated aide to Zev Yaroslavsky, both during his tenure as a city council member and a county supervisor. Born in Chicago in 1931, Adina grew up in Denver, then moved with her mother and sister to Israel, where she joined the Israeli army and worked in intelligence for Chaim Herzog, who later became the 6th president of Israel. This was the beginning of a long life of service to others. When Adina moved to Los Angeles, she became involved in the United Jewish Welfare Fund. She became PTA president at Melrose Avenue Elementary School, Bancroft Junior High School, and Fairfax High School, as well as a Brownie and Girl Scout troop leader. In fact, that she was such a dedicated mother and volunteer that Fairfax High School hired her as a community liaison before she worked for then City Council member Zev Yaroslavsky, who made her his field deputy. Working for Zev at both the city and the county, Adina was beloved by the schools, cities, and residents she served. Known for having a big heart and a strong voice, Adina cared about everyone she worked for. She was known as a giver and a doer. Among her many accomplishments are the Revitalize Fairfax campaign, renovations at Pan Pacific Park, and representing the neighborhoods during the Beverly Center construction. Her legacy is seen across the city in the historic mural she secured for Cantor's Deli, the health and beauty of the Beverly Fairfax community, and the Adina Solomon Reading Room at Fairfax Library. Her impact on the city is immeasurable, and her contributions will last for years to come, but most of all, she will be remembered as someone who loved her family, loved her community, and loved her city. She is survived by her children, Scylla and Ron, and her two grandchildren, Zippy and Jacob. May she rest in peace.
You know, anybody that has been around for a bit knew her. She was a staple in the 5th Council District for as long as I can remember. And so our prayers are with the family, but you were blessed to have someone like that lead you through life. She was something, okay? Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I did a very preliminary adjournment previously, but just want to say again that she was a real institution in our district and in our neighborhood. And as Mr. Rue said, you can see signs of her all over the district. My favorite being the mural outside of Cantor's and the great work she did on revitalizing Fairfax. You know, a huge positive impact on the community for so many years, and she was really an institution, and she'll be greatly missed. So thank you to her family for giving us to her, and for all that she was able to do for us.
Well said, Mr. Koretz. I don't believe there are any more adjourning motions, so Mr. Cedillo, I think we need to clean up an item that you had concerns with. I did not do it properly, so maybe you can tell me how you want to
just the second point of that matter, item 25, is to move the council agenda be amended to adopt the recommendation from the CAO report dated January 18th, 2019, and then further move that the council instruct and authorize HCID to make the technical corrections to the associated resolution to reflect the corrected budget amounts.
Okay, can we do that so ordered without another vote, or must we reconsider it? Okay, so let's reconsider it, that item. And that was 25. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Now we'll add Mr. Cedillo's amendments, and we should be able to vote on it and move on, correct? So let's now vote on it. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Members, this meeting's adjourned.
Wilmington and San Pedro have always been the gateway to Catalina since back in the late 1800s. My father, myself, and a friend of mine started Catalina Express along with my brother Tim in 1981. And we came in to actually replace the seaplanes that were at that point going out of service. So what we needed to do was replace that service with fast boats. So we went out, we bought one boat, it was a 50 passenger, and we started out with doing 3 runs a day. About 1 million to 1.2 million people go to and from Catalina on an annual basis. And back in 1981 when we started, I think we carried 3,500 people that year. Both my daughter Amanda and my son Eric, they're all in the business. This building was actually built back in 1966, and it was the seaplane hangar building. They'd take off underneath the Vincent Thomas Bridge. Our goal was really to make it so people felt their trip started when they got here. There's bocce ball courts here located on premises. There's also a putting green. We got fire pits when it's chilly out, and people do seem to feel like they're on their way to Catalina as soon as they walk through the gate. Wilmington used to be the location for the freight service here to the island, and to bring them both onto the same property has been a home run. The Port of Los Angeles has been a real partner in this all the way along. They worked very well with us in trying to come up with a solution for this move. And I think that what we've come up with is one of the best locations we have. When we brought our employees back to this location, we were able to bring 100 employees back this way. Catalina Express employs approximately 325 employees in total, with the vessel crews and administration and ticket sales and the terminal facilities. Avalon Freight Services employs approximately 26 people, with operating the 2 vessels that we have, as well as the warehouse here and on the island. The island is always growing. It's been an exciting part of being not just in passengers, but also in freight now. A normal week of freight going to Catalina Island is 5 days a week, 15 trailers. It's shipping fuel, it's food, it's beverages, it's everything you can imagine that has to go to an island to keep it moving. My favorite hobbies are getting out and going fishing. It's a lot of fun to go out off the island and do some fishing. It's always been known as a fishing paradise. Well, I think the favorite part of Catalina Express for me is working around the water. I've been around the water all my life. We just like to be a big part of this overall Catalina Express family. Our whole team here has worked hard to build what we built. There's no I's here, it's a lot of we's, and we really all enjoy it.
Too small to be drawn or built at actual size. The scale gives the ratio of the measurements in the model or drawing to the measurements of the actual object. Remember, guys, a ratio is a fraction that is used to compare the size of 2 numbers to each other. Let's take a look at an example. One of the most common types of scale drawings is a map. Maps are very useful when planning a trip, whether it is across town or across the country. Norbert and Zot are planning to drive from NASA Kennedy Space Center to Washington, D.C. Norbert wants to estimate the distance he and Zot will travel. The scale on Norbert's map reads 1 centimeter equals 100 kilometers. How can he estimate the distance in kilometers from Kennedy Space Center to Washington, D.C. using the given scale? The scale can be written as the fraction 1 centimeter over 100 kilometers. The first number, 1 centimeter, represents the map distance, and the second number, 100 kilometers, represents the actual distance. First, using a metric ruler and the given map, measure the linear distance from Kennedy Space Center to Washington, D.C. On Norbert's map, this distance is approximately 13.5 centimeters. Now we have all the information we need to set up our proportion. Remember, guys, a proportion is a pair of equal ratios. The first ratio is the map scale, and the second ratio is the distance from Kennedy Space Center to Washington, D.C. Let's set these 2 ratios equal to each other. N represents the distance that we are trying to calculate. This proportion can be read as 1 centimeter is to 100 kilometers, as 13.5 centimeters is to n kilometers. In a proportion, the cross products of the 2 ratios are equal. In other words, the product of the top value from the first ratio and the bottom value from the second ratio is equal to the product of the top value of the second ratio and the bottom value from the first ratio. We can write the cross product as 1 centimeter times n kilometers equals 100 kilometers times 13.5 centimeters. Using multiplication, Norbert calculated the actual distance between Kennedy Space Center and Washington, D.C. to be about 1,350 kilometers. Students, here is an important point for you to remember. Proportions often include different units of measurements. Units must be the same across the top and bottom or down the left and right sides. If the units only match diagonally, then the ratios do not form a proportion. So guys, are you still having trouble trying to understand scaling? Okay, well, let's look at another example, this time using a scale model. Right behind me is a replica of the Space Shuttle. And this right here, this is a scale model of the Space Shuttle. The actual Space Shuttle has a length of 37.2 meters, a height of 17.3 meters, and a width or wingspan of 23.8 meters. Now this shuttle model is a 1/100th scale of the actual Space Shuttle. Now that is 1 meter equals 100 meters. So using that scale, let's set up a proportion to calculate the length of this Space Shuttle model. The first ratio is the model scale, and the second ratio is the length of the model to the actual shuttle length. N represents the length of the shuttle model. We set these two ratios equal to each other. Now remember, in a proportion, the cross products of the two ratios are equal. We write the cross product as 1 meter times 37.2 meters equals 100 meters times n meters. Dividing 37.2 by 100 gives us the length of the shuttle model, which is 0.372 meters, or approximately 14.5 inches. Well, that wasn't too bad, was it? Do you think you can handle the other two dimensions? So now it's your turn to calculate the height and the width or wingspan of the shuttle model using the given scale. Remember, the height of the actual shuttle is 17.3 meters. The width or wingspan is 23.8 meters. And the scale is 1 meter equals 100 meters. It's now time to pause the program to calculate the height and width of the shuttle model. So guys, how did you do? Let's check your answers with mine. Earlier, we calculated the length of the shuttle model to be 0.372 meters. I calculated the height of the model to be 0.173 meters, or approximately 7 inches, and the width or wingspan to be 0.238 meters, or approximately 9.5 inches. Did you get the same answers? If you did, great job. And if you didn't, don't be discouraged. Just go back and check over your work carefully. Make sure you set up your proportions and multiplied correctly. You know, scientists and engineers learn a great deal from making mistakes. Now that you have a better understanding of scaling, let's turn our attention to the focus of today's program, which is scaling the solar system. Dr. Sten Odenwald, an astronomer and scientist at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, has a scoop.
Thanks, Jennifer. When we talk about the distances between points of interest, we instinctively use units that make sense to us and that are convenient. For example, what unit of measure would you use to describe the distance from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles, California? Would you use miles, inches, kilometers, or meters? What about your height? Would you measure it in inches or feet? And how about the width of your classroom? Do you use kilometers, meters, or feet? You can choose any unit of measure you wish, as long as it's convenient for everyone to understand. When describing distances at the scale of the solar system, even units like miles and kilometers lead to numbers that are in the millions or the billions, and that makes it very hard to understand them. For example, the distance between the Earth and the Sun is about 149 million kilometers. The Between the Sun and Pluto, the distance is about 5.9 billion kilometers. But suppose we wanted to compare these two numbers. It's not easy to see that Pluto is about 40 times as far from the Sun as Earth is. It would make sense to use a smaller scale in order to get a better idea of the distances between the planets. To come up with that scale, we have to define a baseline. The baseline that astronomers use is the distance between the Earth and the Sun. This distance is known as the astronomical unit. The astronomical unit, or AU, represents the distance between the Earth and the Sun, which is about